What is going on, guys? Welcome to the Reformed Reader, the channel where we review different forms of media through the lens of a Christian who is under the authority of the scriptures. My name is Josh, and today, after several of you have asked, we are going to do a bookshelf tour. Now, the video is pretty long, so I have chopped it up into 2, maybe 3 parts, but just for today, we're gonna cover this shelf, and then in a future video, we're gonna cover this shelf. And then maybe in a third video, depending on if you guys actually wanna see it or not, let me know down in the comment section below. We will look at my overflow shelf, which is an absolute mess. So yeah, if you guys are interested, stick around and we'll go over what I have on my bookshelves, with the exception of a couple books that's going to be in my upcoming book haul. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy.
Behold my stuff.
All right, guys, so I don't have anything too fancy, but we'll start over here on this right shelf. And so we'll start here at the top shelf, and by John Gwynn. I did a review on this on the channel. I'll have it linked somewhere in here if you guys want to check it out. But so I've went through the Bloodsworn saga. I have yet to start Malice, or the Faithful and Fallen saga by John Gwynn, but I did pick these up. I do plan to start Malice probably in the fall. And then I have his sequel trilogy that comes after the Faithful and the Fallen. Here, some of my little knickknacks. I'm a guitar player also, so this was a Christmas present from my in-laws, just a little boost pedal. And since right now I'm using digital stuff, I don't really have a use for my pedals, so they're just little shelf decorations. Over here I've got a little sand pod that I found at the thrift store for $1. Pretty cool. And then next over here I have the Empire of the Wolf trilogy by Richard Swan. I really enjoyed these. It's sort of got some horror elements to it. I really got into these, really enjoyed them. I read the first one with John over Talking Story when he did a little read along with it, and then I just had to plow through the next 2. Such a good trilogy. Highly recommend this one. Then I have this cool Barnes & Noble, I think, edition of Jurassic Park and the Lost World. It's got these cool sprayed edges. So that, I think it's like a faux leather bound. But yeah, that's pretty cool. And then I've got these 2 that I picked up. They're novelizations of some of the graphic novels. I haven't read these yet. I plan to read these pretty soon. They're super short. And so, yep, I've got those 2. And then right beside there, I've got all of the Harry Potter illustrated editions that are currently out. I know we're still waiting on books 6 and 7. I think if I remember right, the illustrator actually broke his contract and said that the stress from coming up with the artwork was too much for him, and so he had to stop due to some mental health reasons. So they had to scramble to try to find a new illustrator that could still match the theme. I think book 6 is supposed to come out sometime this year. So that's that top shelf. Down here I have, well, just a little bit of nostalgia. It works. Just some shelfware. And then I've got the entire Dresden series in mass market paperback. And I actually sent an email to Jim Butcher, and they sent me some book plates, which is really cool. So I've got some of those that I've kept for sort of like I don't know if you want to call it a special occasion, but I kept them for maybe some of the books that maybe are a little more special to me. And then I found this hard copy of some of the short stories at Books A Million. It was a second. I think I got it for $2. And then beside that, I've got this Snakewood by Adrian Selby. I haven't read this yet. I found this at a thrift store for $1 and thought it looked cool. And it's an Orbit book, so kind of can't go wrong. And then next to that, I have my favorite novel of all time. I actually said that in a video, at least as of right now, which is Boy's Life by Robert McCammon. Such a good book. And then beside those, I have Swan Song, which I read, wasn't crazy about, kind of mixed. Gone South, I've yet to pick up. I've kind of heard some mixed things about it too. So I plan to pick these up at some point, but these were like Amazon gift card purchases. Moving next, I've got Titus over here, protecting these Warhammer novels. I did a review of Leviathan. I've read this one. It was sort of a standalone. So if you like the game, you'll like this. It's pretty good. It's action-packed, pretty gritty. But then beside those, I have the Eisenhorn Omnibus, which I plan to start soon. I think it's got 3 or 4 novels in here. And then The Founding, which is Gaunt's Ghost. And this sort of focuses less on the Space Marines and more on the humans. I think there's 3 or 4 novels in this one as well. Yeah, really enjoyed my time with in the Warhammer universe. All right, then beside that, I have a copy of Soul Cage by Luke Scholes. You guys have probably seen this on my shelves, and you may have seen, I think I did a rapid review of it, but also did a dedicated review early on. This book is awesome. I was actually fortunate enough to be given an e-arc of this and liked it so much I had to pick it up. Plus, that cover art is just so cool. This is book 1, I think, in an upcoming trilogy. He's working on book 2. This is excellent. This is sort of like a darker Stormlight. It's the best way I can describe it. It's really cool. And then beside there, I have, one of the greatest series of all time. And got me a little bottle of butterbeer to hang out on the shelf. And I'm a huge nerd, so yeah, I've got just more shelf decorations. Unfortunately, I do have this one beside it. I do not count this as canon. I don't think they do either. I was not a fan, but I picked it up anyway, and so yeah, gotta have them all. So yeah, that's why it's there, and that's also why it's hidden. All right, starting on this next shelf, I have Kolchak, the Night Stalker. I grew up with this show. I absolutely loved it, and they did a Kickstarter of this edition of this story written by Jeff Rice, and it's got some really cool artwork in it, and it was super cheap, so I had to pick this up. I plan to read this really soon, but yeah, I really loved the show and the series. It's old school monsters, and it's like if you like Monk and X-Files, you'll love this. If you haven't heard of this, it's fantastic. But yeah, so they did a novelization of one of the cases that Kolchak worked on, and that's what this is. So really cool. I'll do a dedicated review of it whenever I get finished with it. Okay, so then over here I've got 2 of my favorite sci-fi novels, Dark Matter and Recursion by Blake Crouch. Both of these are awesome. I think I did a dedicated review of one of these. I can't remember, but yes, these are fantastic. I highly recommend them. They're not for the faint of heart. And then I picked up Sons of Darkness by Gaurav Mohanty. It's Indian-inspired fantasy. That cover is just so cool that I had to pick it up. Really cool. I do want to read this year, probably in the fall at some point. And then beside that, I have R.R. Verdi's The First Binding and The Doors of Midnight. I've heard this is very similar to The Name of the Wind. Some people say a little too much so, but I love Name of the Wind. And if I'm not mistaken, I heard that R.R. Verdi loved Name of the Wind so much that he wanted to make sure that story got finished, and so he's kind of doing it himself. And I am appreciative of that, because I doubt we'll ever see the end of The Name of the Wind. All right, next I have The Silver Blood Promise by James Logan. I had purchased this book, the hardcover copy, and I hated the way it looked because it was like this tall, and so it did not fit on the shelf with anything else. And I read the book and really enjoyed it, so I went ahead and picked up the broken binding version. Really cool. I plan to pick up book 2 when it comes out this year. It's a really fun read. It's an excellent book 1. I also did a dedicated review of this on the channel, so if you're interested in that. All right, next up, I have book 1 and book 2, and the We Ride the Storm and We Lie with Death by Devin Madsen. I have book 3 somewhere. I just don't know where it's at. This is The Reborn Empire. Have not read this yet. I've heard really good things. I saw them at, I think, Books A Million, and I got them for, or maybe it was Second and Charles, something like that. Yeah, and I got them for $1 a piece, and so I couldn't pass them up. I mean, they're brand new, and so I picked up book 1 and book 2, and so I'll be picking those up like probably within a year. And then next, I purchased the Gentleman Bastard series by Scott Lynch. I don't know when I plan to pick these up, and I'm sort of reluctant to do so. I've heard super good things about book 1, but I just really haven't heard I've heard a lot of mixed things on books 2 and 3, and I don't want to start book 1 and not be able to go into the other 2 books with excitement. So they've kind of just been on pause, and I'm kind of waiting to pick those up when I need some fantasy that I know is going to be high quality. So I'm just kind of waiting for the right time for those. All right, next up, I'm going to go ahead and jump over here. And this is the Solo Leveling novel omnibus. Now, I've talked about this book at length on the channel. I will do a dedicated review of it before too long. There are 8 novels in here. I had purchased the light novels, which is the little paperbacks, and I had the entire thing, and then I saw this at Books A Million. I didn't even know it existed, and so I sold my paperbacks and purchased this with that money, and it is just so cool. Absolutely loved this story. One of my favorite fantasy stories of all time. All right, next up, I have The Way of the Wizard by Michael Michelle and The Price of Power. Now, I picked this one up as part of his Kickstarter, and this was an add-on for like $10 or something like that. So I went ahead and picked up both of these. The cover of this just looked so cool that I couldn't pass it up, and it was only like $20 at the time. And so I picked up both of these. I don't know when I'm going to jump into them. I've heard a lot of good things, especially about The Price of Power, because I know he just did a re-release of it. But yeah, they look really cool, but I don't know when I'm going to be able to jump into them. And then next, I have another Kickstarter series. It's The Way of Wizardoms. But these were really cool as well. I picked these up for, I can't remember what it was for the set of them. I ordered them like a year in advance and had some money from some other books that I had purchased or had sold on eBay. And so I was like, yeah, I'll go ahead and pick these up, and wanted to support them. Plus, they look really cool. I know he did a Kickstarter for books 3 and 4, but I had not read books 1 and 2 at the time, and so I didn't really see a need for me to drop $100 on 2 books that I have no idea when I'm going to read or if I even like them. So I just stuck with the first 2 for now. And then next we have The Powder Mage by Brian McClellan. I actually found books 1 and 2 at a secondhand bookstore, and I think I got them for about $2 a piece. And then it took me forever to find book 3 in hardcover because apparently they were kind of hard to come by. I do not have the pretty broken binding editions, but I don't really care. It's the same words, and I got the hardcovers, which is what I prefer. And yeah, I do want to jump into these this year. They sound really cool. Then next up, I have The Mark of Kings by Bryce O'Connor. This cover is what sold me. The cover is so cool. I don't know when I'm going to pick it up. I heard it's sort of Dark Souls-y. It's got some Dark Souls elements to it. I actually heard somebody say it's like if you combine Dark Souls and that Shadow of Mordor game. So if you guys have played that, it sounded pretty cool. But yeah, the cover sold me on it. Looks really cool. I don't know when I'm going to dive into it, but it does. Yeah, that cover is just awesome. And then the last one on this shelf was another Kickstarter campaign, and this is The Crimson Court by Brendan Noble. I know he just did a Kickstarter for his book 2. I did not purchase book 2 because I haven't read book 1, and I don't know if I like it. So I did not want to drop more money on book 2 when I didn't know what book 1 was like. But I do think that he did a really good job with these books. I mean, it is very cool. All right, that leads me down here to the third shelf. You will see a common trend here with my bookshelves, which is I keep almost anything my kids give me. But yeah, these are my favorite shelf decorations. But yeah, my daughter did this for me. Then these right here are sort of just filler books. I do have quite a bit of Tad Williams books. I don't have all of his sequel books yet, but as I find them, I'm finding them at thrift stores and secondhand shops for next to nothing. And so as I find them, I'm picking them up. But there are several in here. I do want to read all of these, but these are going to be sort of when I'm in the mood, I'm just going to look and pick one of these up. So I've got Witchwood Crown by Tad Williams. Blood of the Four. Never heard of this, but yeah, cover looked cool. Boy on the Bridge. I heard this is got some Stephen King kind of feel to it. Story of Edgar Sawtelle. I've heard a lot of good things about this one. And then London Falling. I got this for 50 cents at a thrift store. Also, cover just looked cool. And then a Dan Simmons novel, Olympus. Yeah, looks really cool. And then moving on, I'm a huge Jim Butcher fan, as you can tell by all of the Dresden Files books. And I found this and I really couldn't believe it. I didn't know this existed, but it is a Spider-Man novel written by Jim Butcher. And I just couldn't pass it up. And so I think I got it for $1. But yeah, that is super cool. So I picked that one up. And then next we have Howl's Moving Castle, which I cannot remember if I did a dedicated review of it or not yet. But excellent book. If you loved the movie, but you weren't so crazy about the war aspect that Miyazaki tends to throw into a lot of his movies, but you loved the whimsy of it, that's what this book is. It's this. I think the book is 100 times better than the movie, but I do still love the movie. But yeah, excellent book. And then beside it, I have The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. I did a dedicated review for this. Absolutely loved it. And then here's sort of my classics. So I have The Hunchback, which I've read, loved, raved about. The Three Musketeers I have not read, but I found this really cool older copy at a thrift store for $1, so I picked it up. And then I've got these, I think these are Books A Million editions of Tarzan and the John Carter series, which I've read the first book, Princess of Mars, and really liked it. I read it in a day. I think I read it in a sitting, actually. But yeah, I do plan to get into more of these and probably reread book one of the Princess of Mars. And then I've got the Grimm's Complete Fairy Tales. Really cool. And then in the same style, I have the Count of Monte Cristo. And this is the version that I will be reading shortly with my wife. This is such a cool cover. I had to get it. And they don't make it anymore, apparently. It was, yeah, you can see, it was $8. And I think now if you look on eBay, they're about $40. And so thankfully I was able to snag it before the price jumped. Then I have this cool copy of Les Miserables. I don't know when I'm going to get to that. And I had been looking for Ben-Hur forever. I don't know if it's because of the Christian connotations behind it or what, but bookstores don't really tend to carry it. But I found this at a thrift store, this copy at a thrift store for $1. And I was just tickled to death to pick it up. So I do plan to read it soon. And then we have The Outsiders. Again, $1 fine. I found it at Goodwill, and just couldn't pass it up. Read it in school, really enjoyed it. I do want to revisit it. And now we're going to some books that you've heard me talk about. Frankenstein. I really love this illustrated edition. Really cool. I think it was a Barnes & Noble copy as well. And then right beside it, I have my favorite horror book of all time. I think it's the best horror book of all time, Dracula. I have this really cool edition. I looked all over for this, for a cool hardcover copy, and I saw this and I absolutely had to pick it up. Really cool. And then beside it, I found this at a thrift store, Dracula the Undead. It's a sequel, supposed to be, by, I can't remember if it's his grandson. Anyway, yeah, picked it up, and I actually plan to read that in October. And so that looks really cool. All right, then going down to the last shelf of this bookshelf, I have these two Dragon Ball characters that my brother John bought me for Christmas when I think I was in like 8th grade. And they showed up on Christmas Eve. I'll never forget that. And they are just so cool. They will never go anywhere. Dragon Ball was one of my favorite series of all time, so he bought me this cool. They came with some sort of little diorama in the background and stuff, which I've since lost, unfortunately, but I do still have Goku and this Yamcha, which are really cool. But then down here, this is sort of like my filler shelf. This is I kind of just have a smattering of things, and so almost all of these, as a matter of fact, thrift store pickups. So I have my son read this one. It's like a steampunk YA kind of novel we found. I think he really enjoyed it. And then I saw this, the Grimm Company. I'd heard some good things about it, and it actually came signed. And so I messaged Luke just to let him know that I was looking forward to this and to support him. Guys, make sure you do that. If you find an author that you really like, send them an email of encouragement. I don't think they get that too often. I think they get criticized more often than not. But he actually messaged me back and sent me this really cool letter and a bunch of book plates and things like that, just telling me how much he appreciated the email. So yeah, if you guys have an author that you think maybe goes unrecognized, shoot them an email, because they really appreciate it. And then he sent me this. And then he sent me this. So, I mean, that's the kind of guy he is. Super cool. Really appreciate that. All right, I found these 3 all sitting beside each other at a thrift store, and they are $1 a piece. And so it just looks like good classic fantasy. So those, I was like, well, I'm gonna pick those up because you never know when I'm gonna have to DNF something. And so, yeah, grab those. Look really cool. This sci-fi book, just the cover just jumped out at me. It's just another thrift store. K-Pax, one of my favorite movies. So good, so good. Did not know it was based off of a novel. Don't mind the dust. But I found this at a thrift store for $1 as well. And so I definitely had to pick that one up. Same with this one. Found it at a thrift store, loved the cover, thought it was really cool. And then, of course, realized that it is part of a series and I think this is like book 2. And so I'll get to it at some point. And then the Historian, found on Pango, I think for $1. And it was in pretty good shape, and I'd heard a lot of good things about it. John over at Talking Story was sent this, and he read it, and so I'd picked it up then for $1. And then afterwards he said he wasn't really a huge fan of it, so it's kind of sat there since. Now the next 3, I have some Marvel novelizations. I remember when the Civil War came out, and so I had to have that novel, and I found it, I think, at a thrift store. There you go. Found it Second Charles for $2.50, so couldn't pass it up. Really looking forward to jumping into some of those as well. Have not yet, though. I know it sounds like I haven't read a lot of my books. I think I've read about 60% of my bookshelves so far. Then I have World War Z. Loved this book. I can't remember if I did a dedicated review for it or not, but I have talked about it on the channel and really enjoyed this. And since I am such a huge nerd, I love the Halo books. Found this one for $1. You'll see more of these in just a minute. Really love the Halo universe. Before 343 started messing with it. And then I purchased these 2. These 2 are written by a local author. And so I picked these up to support him. He's from Huntsville, Alabama, by W.M. Martin. Yeah, pretty cool. I don't know when I'm going to jump into these. I just really want to make sure I supported a local author. Got another Halo book here I found at the thrift store. And then I have these dwarf books that I do want to jump into. And then the sequel series to Powder Mage, which I've heard mixed things on, but again, I found these at a secondhand bookshop for $1 a piece, so I picked them up. You know, if I find a good deal, I'm gonna go ahead and pick them up, and I'll find out later. But it's paying full price for something I'm unsure of, where I kind of draw the line. All right, guys, that covers it for today's video. I'm sorry it took so long for me to cover one bookshelf, but we will dive into my other bookshelf in an upcoming video, so stay tuned for that. Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hit the notification bell to let you know when I post videos. Should be every Sunday and Wednesday. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.